Every skyscraper reaching into the sky, every tunnel connecting countries, every mine pulling copper and gold from the earth, every canal linking oceans, all of them depend on one invention that changed the world more dramatically than almost any other. And the man who gave it to us spent the rest of his life terrified of what he had created. This is the story of dynamite, of Alfred Nobel, and of how one invention designed to build became the tool that could destroy everything. Think about that for a second. The same force that carved the Panama Canal and connected continents became the weapon that would define modern warfare. The same man who made construction faster and safer would be called the Merchant of Death. But that is just the beginning of this story. To understand what Alfred Nobel gave us, you have to picture a world where moving mountains was nearly impossible, where drilling through rock took decades instead of years, where every major construction project was a dance with death. For over 1,000 years, there was only one way to blast through stone: black powder, gunpowder, the same explosive mixture the Chinese had invented centuries earlier. But black powder was unpredictable, inefficient, and deadly. Workers would drill holes deep into rock faces, pack them with enormous amounts of powder, light a fuse, and pray. Sometimes the explosion would be too weak, sometimes too strong. Often, it would go off at exactly the wrong moment. During the construction of the Central Pacific Railroad through the Sierra Nevada mountains in 1866, crews used an estimated 500 pounds of black powder every single day. Chinese immigrant workers, who drew the most dangerous assignments, died by the hundreds from premature explosions and misfired charges. The powder needed to be transported in huge quantities. It absorbed moisture from the air. It created clouds of toxic smoke that choked workers in confined spaces. And worst of all, you never knew exactly when it would detonate. A spark, a shock, even changes in temperature could set it off without warning. The men building the transcontinental railroad carried their powder in wooden kegs, knowing that one wrong step could send them and their fellow workers to their graves. This was the world before dynamite, where progress was measured not just in miles of track or feet of tunnel, but in how many men came home alive each day. Alfred Bernhard Nobel was born into explosives. His father, Emmanuel, had moved the family to St. Petersburg in 1837 to manufacture military equipment for the Russian Empire. Young Alfred grew up surrounded by gunpowder, cannons, and the constant threat of accidental detonation. He could speak 5 languages fluently, held 355 patents in his lifetime, but described himself as a misanthrope with an oversensitive nervous system. Here is where it gets really interesting. Alfred had become fascinated with a substance called nitroglycerin. Liquid nitroglycerin was 3 times more powerful than black powder. The problem was, it was also 3 times more likely to kill you. The slightest shock could detonate it. Transportation was nearly impossible. And then came September 3rd, 1864. Alfred's younger brother Emil, just 21 years old, was working in the family's nitroglycerin factory in Hellenborg, Sweden. At 9:30 that morning, the entire building vanished in a massive explosion. Emil and 4 other men died instantly. The blast was so powerful that Swedish authorities banned any further nitroglycerin experiments within Stockholm city limits. Alfred was devastated, but he was also determined. His brother's death became his mission. There had to be a way to harness nitroglycerin's power while controlling its danger. Alfred moved his experiments to a barge on Lake Mälaren, working alone, mixing the deadly liquid with different substances, trying to find something that would stabilize it. And then, in 1866, he found his answer: diatomaceous earth, fossilized algae. When he mixed liquid nitroglycerin with this powder, something remarkable happened. The explosive became stable, safe to transport, safe to handle. He could form it into sticks, wrap them in paper, and carry them without fear. Alfred called his invention dynamite, from the Greek word dynamis, meaning power. On May 7, 1867, He received British patent number 1345 for his improved explosive compound. And nobody had any idea what they had just started. The first commercial dynamite factory opened in 1867 in Krümmel, Germany, near Hamburg. Alfred chose Germany because of its advanced chemical industry and central location for European distribution. Within the first year, that single factory was producing 78 tons of dynamite annually. But the real test came in the mountains of Switzerland. Engineers were attempting something that seemed impossible. They wanted to drill a tunnel through the Gotthard Pass in the Swiss Alps, connecting northern and southern Europe by rail for the first time in history. The project had been estimated to take 30 years using black powder. 30 years of drilling, blasting, and clearing rock, one dangerous explosion at a time. But with dynamite, everything changed. Construction began in 1872. Workers could now blast through solid granite with precision and power that had never existed before. The explosions were controlled. The excavation was faster. Most importantly, far fewer men died in the process. 10 years later, in 1882, the Gotthard Tunnel was complete. What should have taken 3 decades had been finished in 1. The tunnel connected northern and southern Europe by rail, revolutionizing commerce and travel across the continent. Word of this success spread quickly. Every major construction project, every mining operation, every engineer with an impossible dream suddenly had a new tool. Alfred Nobel had not just invented a better explosive, he had invented possibility itself. By 1896, Nobel's companies were operating 90 factories in 20 countries, producing over 66,000 tons of dynamite annually. The Klondike Gold Rush alone consumed 10,000 tons of dynamite between 1896 and 1899. Mines that had been economically impossible became profitable overnight. Previously inaccessible ore deposits could now be reached. The scale of human ambition had fundamentally changed. Now that is a story worth telling. But the real impact of dynamite went far beyond construction and mining. It reshaped the modern world in ways that most people never think about. The Panama Canal, one of humanity's greatest engineering achievements, consumed 61 million pounds of dynamite between 1904 and 1914. Without dynamite, engineers estimated the canal would have taken over 50 years to complete instead of 10. That canal literally changed global trade by connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Every container ship passing through today owes its route to Alfred Nobel's invention. In Manhattan, the construction of early skyscrapers like the Woolworth Building in 1913 required dynamite to excavate foundations deep into the island's bedrock. Without the ability to precisely blast through granite and schist, the vertical development of major cities would have been economically impossible. Even the Statue of Liberty's pedestal on Bedloe's Island required dynamite in 1884 to blast through the island's rocky foundation. America's most iconic symbol of freedom was made possible by Nobel's explosive. But here is the pattern I keep seeing. The same invention that enabled humanity's greatest construction projects also became its most destructive weapon. During World War I, the warring nations used an estimated 1.5 billion pounds of explosives, much of it based on Nobel's innovations. The Battle of Messines in 1917 involved the simultaneous detonation of 19 mines containing 455 tons of explosives. The explosion was heard 140 miles away in London and killed approximately 10,000 German soldiers instantly. Alfred Nobel had feared this would happen. On April 12, 1888, a French newspaper called La Presse mistakenly published Nobel's obituary after his brother Ludwig died. The headline called Alfred the Merchant of Death who became rich by finding ways to kill more people faster than ever before. Nobel was devastated by how he would be remembered. That moment of reading his own obituary while he was still alive became the turning point that would define his ultimate legacy. Alfred Nobel died on December 10, 1896 in San Remo, Italy. But 6 months before his death, he had signed a will that would transform his legacy forever. He devoted 94% of his fortune, worth approximately $265 million in today's currency, to establish prizes for physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. The Peace Prize, in particular, represented his desperate desire to be remembered for promoting the opposite of what his invention had enabled in warfare. Since 1901, the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to 109 individuals and organizations, including Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, and Nelson Mandela. Here is the ultimate irony. The world's most prestigious peace award is funded by profits from the invention of dynamite. That is the thing about great inventions. They solve one problem and create an entirely new world. Today, the global explosives industry produces over 5 million tons of commercial explosives annually. Mining accounts for 80% of consumption. A single large copper mine can use 200 to 300 tons of explosives per day. Every smartphone in every pocket contains metals extracted using descendants of Nobel's original dynamite formula. Every tunnel you drive through, every skyscraper foundation, every mineral pulled from the earth likely involves the principles that Alfred Nobel established over 150 years ago. When you have been around long enough, you start to see how everything connects. One man's guilt over his brother's death led to an invention that built the modern world. That same guilt, magnified by reading his own obituary, led to prizes that celebrate humanity's greatest achievements. Alfred Nobel wanted to be remembered as more than the merchant of death. Today, his name represents both the power to destroy and the drive to create something better. If stories like these fascinate you about the inventions that changed everything, hit that subscribe button and join me every week. And let me know in the comments, what invention should I cover next? Because there are so many more stories like this waiting to be told. Until next time, this is Arthur Lee. Keep exploring.